which is so not going to be what this is. So I was really looking forward to this type of dialogue because I really do want it to be an engaging, interactive conversation. So I am so excited to be talking to you all about self-worth today. So just to give you a little bit of background, I'm Courtney Stanley. For those of you who I do know, oh, I just miss you so much, and I hope to see you sometime soon. And for those of you that I don't know, I am a keynote speaker, event MC, career coach, and I'm also the host and creator of the podcast Dare to Interrupt, which is a women-inspired meetings industry podcast. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it's super, super fun and empowering. And I've just had the pleasure of interviewing a ton of really influential women in our community. So check it out. So why did I want to talk about worth today? I feel like with 2020 being such a tumultuous year and everybody just being smacked in the face with all of these curveballs, whether it's been personal, it's been professional, it's been internal, people have really been struggling this year, myself included. So without going into the whole story, essentially, long story short, I launched my business as a full-time keynote speaker, event MC, and career coach back in January of this year, not knowing what was going to happen and not realizing that literally every contract and every source of revenue that I had lined up that I really left my full-time easy paycheck for would be wiped out in a matter of a couple of weeks. So I've been on this self-discovery journey this year where I have really been thinking more about worth and what is self-worth, who defines it, when do we feel most worthy? How do we increase our sense of self-worth? And how do we start to really challenge the things and the ideas and the thoughts that we have that put into question what our self-worth actually is and when are we actually enough? So of course, we have up here on this first slide a very famous quote by a very famous queen, and that is Queen Bee, Miss Beyonce. And this is part of her song Formation, where she just says, I slay, and come on ladies, get in formation. And that's really how I feel when I talk about self-worth. It's helping other women, especially women, understand that they slay and they're freaking amazing. And what defines them as enough is not what the world tells us we need to be. So I'm going to hit pause there and we're going to keep this engaging, and I want you to jump in and I want you to ask questions. So I'm going to provide opportunities for you to do that during this time. Also, please feel free to engage with me on social media at Courtney on Stage on pretty much any platform that you use. So I'm going to hit pause like I promised. And what I'd like to do is just start off by asking a simple question. So I should have stopped sharing my screen now. Yes, I see that that's actually a thing. And now I can actually see all of your faces, which makes me so happy because I literally couldn't see anything except for I slay, which, I mean, of course, that's not the worst thing in the world to see, but it's nice to see you all here. And thank you so much for coming again. So I want you to fill in the blank. And if you're comfortable enough, I would love to make this the most vulnerable session workshop that you've ever been to in your life. So I encourage you to be brave and be courageous and be open and know that this is a safe space and that nobody is here to judge you, and everybody came here because for some reason, self-worth is a topic that they felt passionate enough about to come. So the first question that I have for you as a group individually is, if you were to fill in the blank of the sentence, and this is you talking to yourself, and you were to say, I'm not blank enough, what is that blank? So if you're comfortable enough, I'd love for you to just put that word in the chat box. Or if you want to raise your hand and create dialogue verbally, that's cool too. But I'd love to just start there and hear what you have to say. You are not blank enough. So what is it that you feel like you're always reaching for, you're always hoping for, but you never feel like you're quite enough? So I'm going to go into the chat and just take a look at some of these responses, and I'm going to read them out loud. So my dear friend Amanda, I love you so much, and I'm so glad you're here. You said good, so I'm not good enough. We have another person that also said the same thing, so I'm not good enough. We have pretty, I'm not pretty enough. We have smart, I'm not smart enough. We also have smart again. So we're seeing that that's a pattern here too. Worthy, so I'm not worthy enough. Business savvy, I'm not business savvy enough. Self-disciplined, I'm not self-disciplined enough. If I sat here and I said all of those things to you guys, and I said, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not self-disciplined enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not qualified enough, you would be looking at me and you would be like, girl, you like, stop. That's not true. That's not true. I don't even know you, but that's not true. You are smart enough. You are worthy enough. But what are the reasons why we actually question these things, especially the ones that are more generalized, like good enough or worthy enough? Because everybody here is good enough and everybody here is worthy enough, but there is a reason or a variety of reasons for why you don't feel that way. So what I'd like to do is, Sandy, if we could run the first poll, I'm going to have you all dig into this first poll and I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And this is where I'd love for you to get on camera. I'd love for you to continue engaging in the chat. So you should have seen that first poll pop up here. And the question is, how much do you relate your career to your sense of accomplishment? So I want to give you a second, go ahead and cast your vote. And then we'll go through the results in just a second here. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of people. Okay, a lot of people are saying 75%. Okay, so how much do you relate your career to your sense of accomplishment? And about 3/4 of the people that we have here are saying, oh, decent amount, a lot. Okay, so we can go ahead and end that poll. Okay, and okay, perfect, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing that poll and I'm gonna get out of there. Ladies, especially in a year where everything has become so unpredictable, I would love to know, again, just in the chat box, how many of you have had something change in your professional life? So you've lost a job, you've lost clients, maybe you've been furloughed, maybe you've had to lay off people that you feel absolutely responsible for and horrible about. Has anything changed this year for you professionally, and what does that look like? Okay, so we're seeing, yeah, a lot has changed. I've been laid off, I've lost clients, I lost my job. So if we go back to this question, and the question is, how much do you relate your sense of accomplishment or worth to your career? If most of us are saying that this is something that's super relevant and super meaningful to our sense of purpose and our sense of worth, when a job gets stripped away or something changes, how is that leaving us feeling? And this is something that has really hit a significant amount of people this year and affected their state of mental well-being, their mental health, their confidence. It's caused a state of confusion and loss because people don't know where to turn for that level of fulfillment or accomplishment. And the truth is, and I'm so glad that Kim Montoya is here because this is something that she says over and over again on her social media. The truth is that you are not your job, right, Kim? You are not your job. So when things change, when your job gets smacked to the side and you get smacked on the ground because some curveball came out of left field and hit you in the face and your professional game changed, that does not mean that you're any less accomplished or less worthy. Sandy, let's go to the next poll. I'd love to get some feedback from these ladies on the second poll.
Sorry, user error here.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No problem.
Oh, why can't I do that? The next one.
Let's see.
Clear. Do I want to continue? I don't know how to go to the next question.
Okay.
Do you know what it was?
See if I can. just give me a second. No problem. Hang on, ladies. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to exit out and pull up a document with my questions.
Oh, I got it.
You got it?
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Can you see it? Can everyone see it?
Yes, got it.
Perfect.
It's up there. Okay. So question number 2. How much do you believe your physical appearance impacts your worth or worthiness? So your sense of worth. Okay, so we're seeing a battle happen right now between a little too much and a lot. So go ahead and get your votes in. I think we're about there at this point. Okay. Ooh, so this is a really tough one, especially for women. And there's somebody in here that said not at all. And we want to know who you are, because this is a seriously relatable topic where there is so much pressure on women specifically to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to in so many different detailed ways. So your hair should be like this, your body should be like this, your skin should be like this, the way you dress should be like this, that your height is a whole other thing that people can't control but are judged on. It is so easy for us to lose our sense of worthiness and our sense of worth if we start to dig in to what we are hearing the world is telling us about our sense of worth based on our appearance. And the truth of the matter is, your weight is not your worth. So whether you have gained 50 pounds over the past 6 months because quarantine, that does not mean that your worth has changed. Whether you have yo-yoed for the past decade and really struggled with your weight, that doesn't mean that your worth has also yo-yoed. But this is something that is far too relatable for so many women, because we're being told constantly by social media, by the media in general, by even people treating us differently, whether we are wearing makeup one day and then we're not the next, and then they ask us if we're sick or something because we don't look like ourselves. There's this need to feel like you have to put on a mask and you have to weigh a certain number in order to be worthy enough. And that, my friends, is complete and utter bullshit. Your weight is absolutely not your worth. Sandy, let's go to the next poll. Okay, so this will be an interesting one. So how much do you actually care what other people think of you specifically? And be honest. Don't, this, I'm sure I want you all to feel like your strongest self right now, but be honest. Okay, so we've got pretty much all of the results in now, and we're seeing the same kind of trend where we've got a battle happening between a little too much and a lot. This is also something that people struggle with a lot. It is so difficult to have interactions with people. And first of all, if you're an especially emotionally intelligent person where you're tapped into the body language, the tone, even the choice of words that somebody else is using to give you feedback or engage with you in a conversation, if you're somebody who tends to read between the lines, and this is something that can either be a really beautiful skill or it can be something that's really tragic, where you're exceptional at reading tone, body language. So anytime somebody reacts and tells you a story with their words, with their tone, with their body, you start to read in between the lines. And that's where you start to create a narrative for yourself that's probably not even true. So think back to moments where you've been in situations where maybe you saw somebody check their phone in the middle of a conversation, and immediately your head goes to, I'm not interesting enough. I see people nodding. Or you're in a conversation with someone and you see them yawn and you think the same thing. Or you see them look at somebody else across the room and they're not actually making eye contact with you. And you're like, okay, well, clearly, I'm wasting your time right now. Like, you don't feel good about those things. But the problem doesn't stop there, because a lot of times we'll take it to heart. Because if it happens more than once, especially in a meeting or at a networking event, or you're interrupted when you're trying to say something, or you're asked a question and you're shut down, all of those different things start to compound. And it leaves you feeling like what you have to say, what you think, and you even showing up is not welcome. And it's not enough. And that in some kind of way, you're not good enough to be a part of that conversation. The truth of the matter is, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. What other people think of you is none of your business. And you have to consider the possibility that if you are someone who is a little bit more emotionally intelligent, if you're reading in between the lines, there is a chance that you're wrong. There is a chance that there is something else going on in that person's life where they're distracted, where they're exhausted, where they're annoyed because they got off the phone with somebody who pissed them off, and it's not about you. So don't make it about you if you don't know that it actually has anything to do with you at all. Let's go to the next poll, Sandy.
Okay, you have a lot of comments in here too. I don't know if you
Okay.
if you want
Yeah,
to
I'm
read
not
any
looking
of
at the
them,
comments
or...
right now because I'm so stuck on the camera. So yeah, and feel free again, if you want to unmute and you want to jump in, feel free to speak up if something really resonates with you. And I'll keep taking a peek over here too.
Okay. Here is the next poll.
Okay, so this is a really interesting one. And again, I want you to take a second to think about it. So this next question is, whose opinion or praise matters to you most? And be honest here. So I'll give you a second to think about that. If you could get any sort of feedback from anybody that's positive, who do you want to hear it from the most? Okay, so it looks like we're almost about there. This is really interesting. First of all, let me just say that it looks like we've got a bunch of independent women on this call. Like, let's go to a Destiny's Child throwback because not that many people picked their significant other. So I'm just gonna like give a little kudos to that because that's I think very easy to do, is to think about what they actually think of you. So yes, to my independent women, that is amazing. What's interesting here is that most of the people in this room chose their boss or their peers. And this goes back to the first topic that we discussed, where we were talking about how much your work impacts your sense of accomplishment. So if you think about it, if you're actually looking to the person who writes your check, the people who work with you on a day-to-day basis, if their feedback or their opinion and their praise matters the most to you, again, that puts you in a sticky situation because that's going to really affect your sense of accomplishment and your sense of worth if it's tied to that worthiness of self and your career accomplishment. I am with you guys. I really am. I actually, interestingly enough, would probably pick my dad. It would fall into the parent category. I actually think I care the most about what my dad thinks. And I've talked to my therapist about this. So this is definitely a thing that I have talked about and worked through. But the important thing to remember here is that really, truly, and you all know this, but the only person who matters at the end of the day is in here. It's the internal dialogue that you have with yourself, your sense of worthiness, and the conversation that you begin and end at the beginning of your day and at the end of the day, you telling yourself whether you're pretty enough, whether you're good enough, whether you're worthy enough, whether you're smart enough, whether you're qualified enough. It doesn't matter if other people say it, because not everybody's always going to be around to say those things. Not everybody's going to even think to say those things, because let's be real, not everyone's great at giving positive feedback or any kind of feedback. And at the end of the day, you're going to leave a job. You're going to transition out of a relationship. Your parents aren't going to be around anymore. So the person who has to say those things to you is you. So I want you to think about the last time you celebrated yourself. This is actually something that I've been reminding myself to do, and I still have yet to actually like really legitimately do. We're always pushing for the next goal, especially as people in this group. I know you're high achievers. I know you're hustlers. You work hard. And so you're goal getters. You're always looking for that next thing to accomplish, to tackle, to achieve. But those things never stop. But what you can do is hit pause for yourself and actually celebrate the things that you have done well in your life. And these are things like surviving the global pandemic, getting your ass out of bed every day, going for a workout, having the courage to be honest with your friends or with your family or with your boss. Those are all things to celebrate, but how often are you actually doing it? Okay, let's go to the next question, Sandy. Okay, so I think this is actually our last polling question, and then we're going to jump into some more dialogue. Do you struggle with imposter syndrome? And I'm going to explain what imposter syndrome is first, just in case anybody's unfamiliar. Imposter syndrome is essentially believing that you're unqualified for things that you actually are qualified to do. So let's say that you are perfectly qualified to go out for a job, but you have an internal conversation with yourself where you decide that you're actually not qualified for that because of XYZ. This could be something like you've been asked to give a presentation at work, and the people who ask you know that you're perfectly capable of doing this. They see you, they believe in you, they know you have the skills, but you have a conversation with yourself, telling yourself that you are not powerful enough, you don't speak up enough, you're awkward, you are too shy, all of those things. So that's what imposter syndrome does. It's that inner dialogue telling you that you can't do something you actually can. So looking at the results that we have here, okay, so we've got about, wow, 69% of you saying too much, that you struggle with imposter syndrome too much. I would love to hear from you. And again, you can do this in the chat, you can jump on video, whatever you're comfortable with. I would love to hear from you. What times or situations have you really doubted yourself? What have those times been? What have those circumstances been? So I want to give you a second to say that in the chat. And actually, what I'd love to do, and Sandy, that was our last poll, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. No, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so what I would love to do is I'd love to get on camera. So I don't want it to just be me talking the whole time. I want to start having a conversation around this. And the question that I have for you to kick off this conversation is, what's your number? And what I mean by that is, for those of you who have taken the Enneagram assessment, I want to know what your number is. So I'm going to ask you to just drop it in the chat, to join me on camera, to do whatever, but I want to know what your number is if you've taken the Enneagram assessment. So feel free to engage however you're comfortable. Carrie, I'm going to pull you on camera because I see you in all your gorgeousness.
You're the best. Did you also see that I haven't taken it yet and that I've been meaning to do that?
That is amazing. That's okay. That's the perfect segue. So if you haven't taken the Enneagram assessment, go to my website, Courtney-Stanley.com, fill out the contact form, and I will send you a free version because not all of them are free. And I love this one on this particular platform. Okay. So Carrie, let's not go to you for that question.
Say your website again. Oh, you said it so quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to type it in the chat too. So it's www.courtney-stanley.com. Also, how often do you hear anyone say www anymore? Like, that was such a weird, like, early 2000s throwback that I just created. Okay, so who has taken the Enneagram assessment? I see some numbers in here. Kim, I'm going to pull you on camera. Talk to me, girl.
I'm an 8, the challenger, which is probably not a surprise for people that spend time with me in real life. I'm an 8, yeah. But I'm learning how to be a healthy 8.
Good.
You know, there's a difference between us, right? There's unhealthy versions of your number and there's healthy versions. And healthy 8s fight injustice. They take care of the people they love. They work hard for things that matter to them. That's the good side of an 8.
Yes, yes, yes. Do we have any other 8s? I'm looking at the chat now. Okay, so I'm assuming that most of you haven't done the Enneagram assessment, just kind of looking at the chat here. Again, please go take it. The Enneagram assessment is one of the more modern personality assessments, where they've actually found that it tends to be a bit more accurate in certain areas than even assessments like Myers-Briggs, which we know has been around for forever. So the Enneagram, I love to go through, and I actually do this during my one-on-one coaching sessions that I have with women, specifically women who'd like to work on overcoming imposter syndrome and improving and building their confidence. So The Enneagram is really interesting because there are 9 different personality types. And what this particular assessment focuses on is understanding what your core motivator is and understanding what your core fear is. So like Kim just mentioned, she was talking about what an 8 is on their best day, and then also what an 8 can be on their worst day. So I want you to, if you haven't taken this assessment, I'm going to go through these different categories and write down what you think you would actually be. So we've got the reformer, which is someone who's a perfectionist and desires to be seen as good. We have the advisor. So this is somebody who desires to feel loved and wanted, and their fear is not feeling loved or wanted. Then we have the achiever. This is somebody who wants other people to see them as successful. So their fear is not being seen as successful. Then we have the individualist. And this is somebody who fears not having an identity or a personal significance, which is really deep. Then we've got the investigator, which is somebody that doesn't want to feel like they're incapable or useless. So if you're this type, if you're an investigator, this year has been tough for you, because especially if you've lost your job, you've been laid off, you don't ever want to feel like you don't have a purpose. There's the loyalist, which is somebody who is afraid of not having support. Then there's the enthusiast, which is the ultimate FOMO person. So they want to have all the experiences. They don't want to miss out. Both of my sisters are this, which kind of surprised me. There's the challenger, which is what Kim mentioned, being controlled. You don't want to be controlled by others. So you want to be free, you speak your mind, you're not afraid to push back. And then there's the peacemaker, which is somebody who's afraid of conflict or disturbance. So I'm loving, Amanda, I saw your comment in here too. Yes, so you're an Enneagram coach. I should have had you come on here and explain these types. But what I love about the Enneagram and talking about worthiness and self-worth is that regardless of what type you are, you can see that there is a core fear of being unworthy, whether it is being unworthy of being seen and heard and loved, being unworthy because you're not perfect, being unworthy because you feel like you're useless or you're incapable, being unworthy because you are being part of all of these different conflicts and these disturbances, and all you want is peace. And if you can't create that peace, what is your purpose? All of these things, regardless of who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, all center around what gives you peace, what keeps you centered, and what helps you continue to feel worthy. So here's some homework for you all, because worthiness is not a topic that you can dig into in a 30-minute session and feel like your entire life has changed. The purpose of this is to start getting you thinking about what you actually consider defining of your worthiness, where you feel like you are unworthy, and asking the question why, and understanding what your inner critic is telling you. Because a lot of times your inner critic is not a nice person. That's a mean girl. And she tends to know exactly what's going to hurt you. And she's going to push those buttons and tell you things like you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough, etc., etc. So I hope that this creates more awareness for you. But what I'd like to send you away with is a little bit of homework. And I hope that you all do this because it can be really eye-opening. I want you to ask 3 people in your life. So these 3 people need to know you well. They can't just be like some random colleague or some random person you don't know. 3 people who know you really well and you respect their opinion and their perspective. Ask 3 people in your life to describe you in 3 positive words. So what are 3 positive characteristics or strengths that they would use to describe you? Then I want you to ask them, what is the one thing that they see you doing that keeps you from getting what you want? What are you doing to hold yourself back? And I want you to ask these people to be honest. And of course, they're going to be kind, because you're not going to ask anybody who's a douchebag to answer these questions. But I want you to ask those people those things. And I want you to, first of all, see the amazing ways that people view you that are definitely true. And I want you to also see the thing that they see in you that if you would get out of your own way, you could accomplish and become a more fulfilled, powerful version of yourself and really see yourself for the worthy person that you are. So That's it from me, my friends. I'm going to hit pause there. If I could blast a Beyonce song right now, I of course would, because that's what we all deserve in our life as our sisters of Beyonce. But I want to hit pause there. And I think we have a couple minutes left, or maybe we're about at time now. But if you have other questions, please feel free to speak up now. Also, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find, just Courtney Stanley. And please, please, please connect with me on social media at Courtney on Stage, which I'll drop in the chat here. And make sure you get that Enneagram assessment from me, because I need to know what you are, and you need to know what you are.
I failed you because I should have given you a 2-minute warning, but you were so engaged and I was writing down all of these different personality traits. I can't wait to take this little test. I'm fascinated with all these personality tests.
Me too.
So I will definitely be going on your website and doing that.
Good. Yeah. It's so important to get to know yourself, and then to believe yourself when you see that these are the things that you're exceptional at, to not let anybody tell you otherwise, because you are worthy and you're freaking badass. And if you can't see it, then nobody else will. So make sure that you shine, and you don't let anybody, including your inner mean girl, your inner critic, to dim that shine. Thank you all so much. This was so much fun. I will see you on social media. Please get the Enneagram assessment from me. I love you all. And I can't wait to see you sometime in person. And I can't wait to drink bottles and bottles of wine.
Thank you, Courtney.
I missed it, Courtney. I ran from my event to come see you. It's Jen.
Oh, I was like, where are you? I'm like clicking through all the videos. I'm like, where is she?
Oh, everyone is
Oh, hi,
smiling.
Jen.
Of course they are. Everyone's smiling. They had the best session. There's Amanda. Oh, and I see
Yes.
Petula. Hi, Petula, from my session.
It was awesome.
well,
Yeah,
okay.
you know what? We actually have time in this room if people want to stay
Yeah.
here, or you can feel free to go to Central Perk and meet up there, or go on to any other session. But Courtney, we really appreciate your inspiration. What a great session. And I am going to stop the recording so everyone can talk freely after this time. And thank you, everyone. Like I said, you could stay in this room for a little bit because there's not another session coming in here for a little bit. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. And thanks for slaying the polls. I could not have done that without you.
Oh, thank you. You did an awesome job. I loved everything you said.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. Hi, ladies. Oh, hi, Jen.